Hi, my tiny loves. Welcome back. We're still reading The Borrowers. We just finished chapter 17, and that was where Mrs. Driver discovered the borrower's house under the floor. And then she was going through everything. And then the last thing she said was, "This is a case for the police." Chapter 18. That boy lay, trembling a little, beneath his bedclothes. The screwdriver was under his mattress. He had heard the alarm clock. He had heard Mrs. Driver exclaim on the stairs, and he had run. The candle on the table beside his bed still smelt a little, and the wax must still be warm. He lay there waiting, but they did not come upstairs. After hours, it seemed, he heard the hall clock strike 1. All seemed quiet below, and at last he slipped out of bed and crept along the passage to the head of the stairway. There he sat for a while, shivering a little, and gazing downward into the darkened hall. There was no sound but the steady tick of the clock, and occasionally that shuffle or whisper which might be wind, but which, as he knew, was the sound of the house itself, the sigh of the tired floors and the ache of knotted wood. So quiet it was that at last he found the courage to move, to tiptoe down the staircase and along the kitchen passage. He listened a while outside the baize door, and at length, very gently, he pushed it open. The kitchen was silent and filled with a grayish darkness. He felt, as Mrs. Driver had done, along the shelf for the matches, and he struck a light. He saw the gaping hole in the floor and the objects piled beside it. In the same flash, he saw a candle on the shelf. He lit it clumsily and with trembling hands. Yes, there they lay, the contents of the little home, higgledy-piggledy on the boards, and the tongs lay beside them. Mrs. Driver had carried away all that she considered valuable and left the rubbish. And rubbish it looked thrown down like this: balls of wool, old potatoes, odd pieces of doll furniture, matchboxes, cotton spools, crumpled squares of blotting paper. He knelt down. The house itself was in a shambles, partitions fallen, earth floors revealed. Where Pod had dug down to give greater height to the rooms, matchsticks and an old cogwheel, onion skins, scattered bottle tops. The boy stared, blinking his eyelids and tilting the candle so the grease ran hot on his hand. Then he got up from his knees, crossing the kitchen on tiptoe. He closed the scullery door, and he came back to the hole, leaning down. He called softly, "Arietti! Arietti!" After a while, he called again. Something felt hot on his hand. It was a tear from his eye. Angrily, he brushed it away, and leaning farther into the hole, he called once more. "Pod!" he whispered. "Homily!" They appeared so quietly that at first, in the wavering light of the candle, he did not see them. Silent they stood, looking up at him with scared white faces from what had been the passage outside the storerooms. "Where have you been?" asked the boy. Pod cleared his throat. "Up at the end of the passage, under the clock." "I've got to get you out," said the boy. "Where to?" asked Pod. "I don't know. What about the attic?" "That ain't no good," said Pod. "I heard them talking. They're going to get the police and a cat and the sanitary inspector and the rat catcher from the town hall and Leighton Buzzard." They were all silent. Little eyes stared up at big eyes. "There won't be nowhere in the house that's safe," Pod said at last, and no one moved. "What about the dollhouse on the top shelf in the schoolroom?" suggested the boy. "Even the cat can't get there." Homily gave a little moan of assent. "Yes," she said, "the doll's house." "No," said Pod in the same expressionless voice. "You can't live on a shelf. Maybe a cat can't get... Blah. Maybe a can't... I've forgotten how to read. Let's try this again. "No," said Pod in the same expressionless voice. "You can't live on a shelf. Maybe the cat can't get up, but no more can't you get down. You're stuck. You've got to have water." "I'd bring you water," said the boy, "and there are beds and things there." He touched the pile of rubbish. Here's this picture so you can see Mrs. Driver, the boy. You can see that that's them running. Oh my goodness, that little drawing of Pod's adorable. So cute. No, said Pod, a shelf ain't no good. Besides, you'll be going soon, or so they say. Oh, Pod, pleaded Homily in a husky whisper. There's stairs in the doll's house and 2 bedrooms and a dining room and a kitchen and a bathroom, she said. But it's up by the ceiling, Pod exclaimed wearily. You gotta eat, haven't you? He asked. And drink? Yes, Pod, I know, but... There ain't no buts, said Pod. He drew a long breath. We've got to emigrate, he said. Oh, moaned Homily softly, and Arrietty began to cry. Now, don't take on, said Pod in a tired voice. Arrietty had covered her face with her hands, and her tears ran through her fingers. The boy watched and saw them glisten in the candlelight. I'm not taking on, she gasped. I'm so happy. You mean, said the boy to Pod, with one eye on Arrietty, you'll go to the Badger set? He too felt a mounting excitement. Where else? Asked Pod. Oh my goodness gracious, moaned Homily, and sat down on the broken matchbox chest of drawers. But you've got to go somewhere tonight, said the boy. You've got to go somewhere before tomorrow morning. Oh my goodness gracious, moaned Homily again. He's right at that, said Pod. Can't cross them fields in the dark. Bad enough getting across them in daylight. I know, said Arrietty. Her wet face glistened in the candlelight. It was light and tremulous, and she raised her arms a little, as though to fly, and she swayed as she balanced on her tiptoes. Let's go to the doll's house just for tonight and tomorrow. She closed her eyes again against the brightness of the vision. And tomorrow the boy will take us. And she could not say to where. Take us, cried Homily in a hollow voice. How? In his pockets, chanted Arrietty. Won't you? Again she swayed with lighted upturned face. Yes, he said, and bring the luggage up afterwards in a fish basket. Oh my goodness, moaned Homily. I'll pick all the furniture out of the pile here, or most of it. They'd hardly notice, and anything else you want. Tea, murmured Homily. Enough for our lifetimes. All right, said the boy. I'll get a pound of tea, and coffee too, if you like, and cooking pots and matches. You'll be all right, he said. But what will we eat? Oh, but what do they eat? Wailed Homily. Caterpillars? Now, Homily, said Pod, don't be foolish. Loopy was always a good manager. But Loopy isn't there, said Homily. Berries, do they eat berries? How do they cook out of doors? Now, Homily, said Pod, we'll see that when we get there. I couldn't light a fire of sticks, said Homily. Not in the wind. And what if it rains? She asked. How do they cook in the rain? Now, Homily, began Pod, beginning to lose his patience, but Homily rushed on. Couldn't you get us a couple tins of sardines to take? She asked the boy, and some salt, and some candles, and matches, and could you bring us carpets from the doll's house? Yes, said the boy. I could, of course I could. Anything you want. All right, said Homily. She still looked wild, partly because of her hair had rolled out of its curlers, but she seemed appeased. How are you going to get us upstairs to the schoolroom? The boy looked down at his pocketless nightshirt. I'll carry you, he said. How? In your hands? Asked Homily. Yes, said the boy. I'd rather die, said Homily. I'd rather stay right here and be eaten by the rat catcher from town at Leighton Buzzard. The boy looked round the kitchen and he seemed bewildered. Shall I carry you in the clothespin bag? He asked at last, seeing it hanging in its usual place on the handle of the scullery door. All right, said Homily. Take out the clothespins first. But she walked into it bravely enough when he laid it out on the floor. It was soft and floppy and made of woven raffia. When he picked it up, Homily shrieked and clung to Pod and Arrietty. Oh, she gasped as the bag swayed a little. Oh, I can't stop it. Put me out. Oh, oh. And then clutching and slipping, they fell into a tangle at the bottom. Be quiet, Homley, can't you? Exclaimed Pod angrily, and held her tightly by the ankle. It was not easy to control her as he was laying on his back with his face pushed forward on his chest, and one leg held upright by the side of the bag somewhere above his head. Arietti climbed up and away from them, clinging to the knots of raffia, and looked up over the edge. Oh, I can't, cried Homley. Stop it, Pod, I'm dying. Tell him to put us down. Put us down, said Pod in his patient way, for a moment. That's right, on the floor. And as once again the bag was placed down by the hole, they all ran out. Look here, said the boy unhappily to Homley. You've got to try. She'll try, all right, said Pod. Give her a breather and take it slower, if you see what I mean. All right, agreed the boy. But there isn't much time. Come on, he said nervously. Hop in. Listen, said Pod sharply, and froze. The little boy looked down. Looking down, saw their three upturned faces catching the light. Like pebbles they looked, still and stony, against the darkness within the hole. Then in a flash they were gone. The boards were empty. The hole was bare. He leaned into it. Pod, he called in a frantic whisper. Homley, come back. Then he too became frozen, stooped and rigid above the hole. The scullery door creaked open behind him. It was Mrs. Driver. She stood there silent, this time in her nightdress. Turning, the boy stared up at her. Hello, he said uncertainly after a moment. So this is what the picture was of that we looked at before. She did not smile. Something lightened in her eyes, a malicious gleam, a look of triumph. She carried a candle which shone upwards on her face, streaking it strangely with light and shadow. What are you doing down here? She asked. He stared at her, but he didn't speak. Answer me, she said. And what are you doing with a clothespin bag? Still, he stared at her almost stupidly. The clothespin bag? He repeated, looking down as though surprised to see it in his hand. Nothing, he said. Was it you? Was it you who put the watch in the hole? No, he said, staring up at her again. It was there already. Ah, she said and smiled. So you knew it was there? No, he said. I mean, yes. Do you know what you are? Asked Mrs. Driver, watching him closely. You are a sneaking, thieving, noxious little dribbit of no good. His face quivered. Why? He said. You know why. You're a wicked, black-hearted, fribbling little pickpocket. That's what you are. And so are they. They're nasty little crafty, scampy, scurvy, squeaking little. No, they're not, he put in quickly. And you're in league with them. She came across to him, taking him by the upper arm and jerked him to his feet. And you know what they do with thieves? She asked. No, he said. They lock 'em up. And that's what they do with thieves. And that's what's going to happen to you. I'm not a thief, cried the boy, his lips trembling. I'm a borrower. A what? She swung him around by tightening the grip on his arm. A borrower, he repeated. There were tears in his eyelids, and he hoped they would not fall. So that's what you call it, she exclaimed, as he had done so long ago, it seemed now, that day with Arietti. That's their name, he said, the kind of people they are. They're borrowers. Borrowers, eh? Repeated Mrs. Driver wonderingly. She laughed. Well, they've done all the borrowing they're ever going to do in this house. She began to drag him toward the door. The tears spilled over his eyelids and ran down his cheeks. Don't hurt them, he begged. I'll move them, I promise. I know how. Mrs. Driver laughed again and pushed him roughly through the green baize door. They'll be moved all right, she said. Don't worry. The rat catcher will know how. Crampfurl's old cat will know how. And so will the sanitary inspector and the fire brigade if need be. And the police will know how, I shouldn't wonder. No need to worry about moving them. Once you've found their nest, she went on, dropping her voice to a vicious whisper as they passed Aunt Sophie's door, the rest is easy. She pushed him into the schoolroom and locked the door. He heard the boards of the passage creak beneath her tread. Satisfied, she moved away. He crept into bed. Then, because he was cold, and he cried his heart out under the blanket. And that's the end of chapter 18. Oh my goodness. This is all really, really sad. I wonder what will happen. And guess what? We only have 2 more chapters left of this whole book. I hope you're loving it so far. It's hard when you have to stop at an exciting part. So yes. Okay. I'll see you in a little bit. Love you.